Good evening, this is William, and welcome to the latest installment of I Was a Teenage Daydreamer, where I discuss mostly music, some literature, some film, and some random things that I enjoy, and hopefully you do as well. Tonight I'm going to be kicking off a new series that I'm going to do sporadically called Album of the Day. And in this case, there was a pile of CDs on my way out the door to work, and this one was on top. And I thought, yep, I haven't heard that in a long time. I'm going to listen to that today. And I did, and I really enjoyed it. And it is Superchunk's 2010's Majesty Shredding, which is a bit of a comeback album for them, but not really, because Superchunk was on, I guess, a bit of a hiatus, but they did put out singles and EPs and soundtrack stuff and compilations and stuff like that, played a few shows, but they weren't active. This wasn't the main focus while they were doing other things. So this is their first proper album since 2001's, I believe it was called Here's to Shutting Up. I could be wrong about that. Because while my love for Superchunk and American indie rock in general was extremely intense, it was also very brief. And it lasted from probably the fall of 1992 until sometime in mid 1994 or so, when my obsession with Joy Division led to my obsession with New Order and then all things synth pop. So anyway, but in that time, I got to see Superchunk live. The first indie show I ever went to, first show I ever saw when I moved to Nashville for college, September 4th, 1992, at a club called the Pantheon that had a lot of really great indie rock bands play. And it burned down a couple of years later, but not before I got to see Superchunk there twice, not only in 92, but also in 93 when they were touring the album On the Mouth, which for me was probably the album of the summer of 93 for me. I listened to it constantly. And this is the first album with John Worster on drums. And not only is he fun to watch play live, but the drumming on this is all over the place. And I've almost wrecked many, many times as a 19-year-old kid doing those fills while navigating the highways and byways of Nashville, Tennessee, and all places in between. And then after that came the Ribbon Who Needs Light, a single which I also absolutely love, 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 love. And I mentioned this, I think, in another video talking about just random singles. The first part single from their next album, Foolish, the lead single, came out. And I really liked that as well. And I was very pumped and excited about that album. And when it did come out, I was very much underwhelmed and let down. And that stinks because I think that's pretty much what derailed me with U.S. indie rock in general. Bands like Polvo and Versus and Archers of Loaf, I got their first one or two albums, was really into them, and then again, my taste changed severely, and I started looking into other directions, and I still kept going to shows. I saw Superchunk again in 96 at Exit Inn with Lamb Chop opening up, and I think Seam was there as well. So many shows, so many years ago, things like that. And what got me into Superchunk was not only seeing them, but my friend Sonny, who was not a fan of the band, but did go with me to the show. Someone had given him their first compilation of singles called Tossing Seeds from 89 to 91. And this is a great, if I had to choose one, it would probably be this one. I do love On the Mouth, and I do love No Pocky for Kitty, and I do love this one as well. So a friend of mine, I had been keeping up somewhat with some of their singles, buying them, Hello Hawk, for example, and they got very experimental, and I wasn't big on that. I felt Mac was still a great songwriter, but I just didn't like the approach. And that's just like Foolish. That's just like Here's Where the Streams Come In from 1995. I picked that album up as well. Some songs on there that I really liked, but overall, I think it was me that had changed. Yes, they were certainly developing, maturing as songwriters, maturing as players, but I just wasn't following along. And, my bad. I did keep going to shows and things like that, but the music just wasn't what it was for me in that first 18 months or so of just intense love for this band. And I still love On the Mouth, and I still love Tossing Seeds singles collection a lot, a lot, a lot, and and a lot of No Pocky for Kitty. But I heard, I believe it was Learn to Surf as either a lead single or just maybe a promo or something of this album, and I was like, man, that is really great. That is, almost a return to form, if you will. And a buddy of mine who worked at a record store said, yeah, we got a promo copy in and it's really, really great. And you should go check it out. So eventually I checked it out and then I bought it and I loved it. This is what I would consider the classic lineup of Superchunk that began with 1993's On the Mouth with, of course, Mac McKagan on vocals and guitar, primary songwriter, John Worster on drums. Again, great drummer, so fun to watch play and hilarious on Twitter in the days when I was still on that. Laura Balance on bass and Jim Wilbur on lead guitar doing co-leads with Mac. And I think he's the one that really kind of developed their sound the way he did. I read an article with him probably 94 or so where he said that The Church, which is my favorite band of all time, was a band he'd really been into a lot lately, and that was what was informing the direction of their music so much, which I don't understand why it did not and still does not connect with me. But anyway, Majesty Shred is a collection of catchy, singable, I'll say danceable in the way we used to do it back when we were kids, guitar-driven pop songs. There are strings on one song and there are horns on another song. They don't distract from anything, but this is mostly just the four members of the band bashing out great catchy pop tunes in the way that they truly do best. I mean, these guys were, in my opinion, on the top of the heap of all the indie rock bands, and it's because they had an energy and an infectiousness, and in Mac's impassioned vocals really took you places that you could identify with, even though they were his stories. And there's definitely some darkness in those early Superchunk albums, especially songs like Swallow That, which is certainly about drug addiction and things like that from On the Mouth. And those younger 20-something worries and things like that are replaced by, well, now we're in our 40s and we've got kids of our own and we've got new types of worries and things like that. And it translates very well. Mac's songwriting and the band presenting these songs translates very well. Again, they're still hyper, they're still catchy. Learn to Surf is one of the catchiest songs, I'm going to say, ever written. It rivals some of the best songs they ever wrote, as does My Gap Feels Weird, Digging for Something, Crossed Wires. I mean, they are all memorable, sing-alongable. All of them could have been top of the indie charts in the 90s. Rope Light's another really nice one. Winter Games. I mean, really, there's not a clunker or a misstep on there, and it is not classic No Pocky for Kitty sound. It's got that energy, but it's through the more mature filter, and that's what I think resonates with me as well. Now that I'm older as well, these songs still hit me with that same type of energy, but in a harnessed, mature way that makes me think, yeah, indie rock's not dead. US rock is not dead. There's still a lot of really good things out there going on. There's two albums at least after this. One's called I Hate Music. Sadly, I have not kept up with that. Again, I'm always meandering all over the place. Like I've said in previous posts, I'm always looking for something different. And Superchunk is just not usually where I am most days. And when I am, I pick up Tossing Seeds or I pick up On the Mouth. When I go to Memphis and visit my friends up there, we play On the Mouth on vinyl because they have it on vinyl. Full volume, front to back, and it's always great. It takes us back, 30 plus years, and it's great. This one is right up there with it, and it makes me feel that youthful nostalgia but again with a more mature filter. So man, I'm hitting 10 minutes with this, but again, I love music. I love great music, and I love sharing music with people. I want people to pick up on the excitement that I feel for it. And if you are familiar with Superchunk, but only their early stuff, I really definitely think you should go check this album out. If you're not familiar with Superchunk, this is a really good place to start. Some of the early stuff is a little murky and a little lo-fi and a little angular at times and things like that. These are all just straightforward, dare I say, power pop songs in the best sense of the word. Not pop punk, power pop like they were doing it in the early 70s with Big Star and such like that, but with more energy. Anyway, so that's my ramble for today. Superchunk's Majesty Shredding 2010. Please click like and subscribe. Please let me know if you have any Superchunk stories or particular albums that you love. But most importantly, keep doing what you love. Thanks.